All right, so jobs. So once I have a job, hopefully if I have an annual salary, most people do not have an annual salary here in Canada. Most people are, they have low paying jobs, no annual salary. No, kidding, but a lot of people. They're minimum wage, survival jobs, just to try to make ends meet. Remember how we're trying to make ends meet? When we make ends meet, it means you try to just earn a living, live from hand to mouth, keep the body and soul together, and survive. Most jobs are like that. Well-paid jobs are quite rare and hard to come by, and with high annual salaries. And then of course you have to pay a lot of tax as your salary goes up here. So that's it. Now, some of the things we talked about: perquisites or perks, benefits, paid holidays. You know, your holiday or paid leaves, paid vacation could be paid or unpaid. So paid vacation, unpaid vacation. Insurance coverage, dental care, health insurance. We talked about economic recession. What happens? People lose their jobs. Now, of course, we will look at the type of jobs that are out there, but before that, let's talk about the process of getting a job and losing it. So the process of hiring and firing. You know hiring and firing, right? Who does the hiring and firing in a company? Who's responsible for that usually? The HR. Yeah? The HR is? So human resource. Is in charge of the hiring. HR is in charge of hiring and firing. Yeah? When you write a letter and you want to be hired, you write it to the whom? You write to the hiring manager, right? Hiring manager. Yeah, the manager who hires. But usually in huge companies, they have an HR department, and the HR is in charge of hiring and firing. A couple of words about that, and then we start talking about the process of getting a job. Yeah? So we have to employ, to hire. For example, to hire a lawyer. To hire new employees. To employ people. To give them a job. Would you give me a job? You hire people. I was hired by we don't hire now. We don't hire now. Yeah, most companies hire in, so I would say most companies hire in when? In June? In July? When is the hiring season?
In Christmas and
Christmas? And for Christmas we have like temporary jobs that are seasonal jobs, huh? Seasonal jobs or positions. Like Christmas. Before Christmas, people need extra workers. They hire, and then they Kick him out. Get rid of them. Fire them. Yeah? So to hire, to employ, but to fire, to dismiss, yeah? To dismiss. To dismiss someone? When you dismiss a worker, it's like you fire. To kick someone out. To kick someone out. To boot someone out. He was kicked out or sacked. Basically, a good word that you hear all the time is laid off. Laid off. To lay someone off. GM went bankrupt and laid off hundreds and maybe thousands of people. Laid off thousands of his workers. Thousands of employees, right? When you lay off, you kick out. He was laid off last week. So hire and fire. John was laid off last week. He was laid off. He was fired. Last week, laid off. So, this layoff, I was laid off. We hear it all the time. Layoff, layoff, right? Sometimes when they lay you off, they need to give you some money. That's called a severance pay. Severance pay. Sometimes it's a package, severance package. If you get laid off because your job is severed, to sever means to cut. They give you severance pay. Claudia, if they kick you out, you're working for 2 years. After 2 years,
And kick out is laid off.
yeah. But fire and layoff, they're a little different. So I'll tell you what. Usually, if I'm not a good teacher, Darby will fire me. I get fired. You're out of here. My boss will fire me. In cartoons, don't you see? You're fired. You're fired. It means go home. But usually, a company lays people off when their economy is not good, when the company is losing money, for some huge reason. In times of recession, people lose their jobs. I was laid off. John lost his job. John lost his job last week. His job. He was laid off. But if I'm not doing my job very well, for whatever reason, I get fired because I'm not doing a good job. But if somebody says I was laid off, it means he was fired, but usually for company reasons. For the business is not okay. For example, maybe 2 of our teachers, they were not fired. They were laid off because there were no students. They were laid off. Were they fired? No. They were not fired. They were laid off because the business was not good. It's not the right time. So they had to go. Sometimes the company where you work, especially if you have a full-time job, you have some benefits. And if they want to kick you out, it's not that easy. They should give you severance pay, which is the money the company gives you to say goodbye to you. It depends on how they calculate it. In most countries, they calculate it like 1 month salary of every year you have worked for that company. For every year. So for example, if you've worked for that company for 10 years, they should give you 10 months worth of your salary. The last salary that you had. For example. Vacation pay, this and that. All that. So, now, of course, we talked about the salary and all that, but and severance pay. But if you live to work in a company for so many years, like 30 years, what happens? Then you retire. Yeah?
Yeah.
Then you retire. And what is the money they give you for retirement? You'll receive a monthly
Pension.
pension. So, to retire, a retirement, retiree, so he will retire next year. He is retired. And receives a monthly pension. So he is a pensioner. So pension is the money you receive every month after you retire. When you retire, when you work for a company for a long time, maybe 20, 30 years, you finally retire, right? At some point they should give you some money every month because you worked for 30 years. Now a lot of people, there are retirement funds. Now in the US, for example, there's Social Security. You know Social Security, you hear? You have things like Medicare and Medicaid. And Social Security. And there are retirement funds and pension funds. It depends. It depends on the company where you work. Part of the money is deposited by the company, and part of it is by you. So the employer and the employee both contribute to the pension fund, to the retirement fund. You should both pay into that fund every month. So partly you pay from your salary, partly your employer should pay the money for your retirement.
Okay, if you go to the bank, you can retire funds, or it's another thing. If you go to the bank, you.
It's usually what happens is usually the companies decide where they want to put the money and in which fund, and that fund is the one that gives you money and pension and all that, and tells you which bank you should go to receive your pension every month. You can't decide for that yourself. So, to be in charge of means to be responsible for, right? In charge of, HR is in charge of hiring. Means HR is responsible for, right? HR is in charge of hiring and firing. HR is responsible for hiring and firing. If I come into this room and say, into this office and say, who's in charge here? Who's in charge here? Jim is in charge of the sales department. Jim is in charge of the sales department. Yeah? Means he's responsible for, he's the boss of the sales department. He's the manager of the sales department. Who's in charge here? Means who's the boss here? Who's the boss? I'm not asking. Like you walk into a place and may talk to the person in charge. The person in charge. May I talk to the person in charge? So who's in charge? Who's in charge of banking? Who's in charge of the shipping department? Who's in charge of the student recruitment here? So I talked about recruitment. That's good. So hiring, to hire or to recruit? To hire means to recruit. We have recruitment companies. So if you want a job, you go to a recruitment company. It's a job recruitment company, right? Company that recruits, sometimes on behalf of other companies. So a recruitment company usually recruits, hires people, sometimes even on behalf of other companies. They outsource these jobs. The company is too big, it asks other companies to do the recruitment. Job hunting companies, recruitment companies. You go to a recruitment company and say, I need a job. So they work on behalf of other companies, and they would refer you to other companies. They would find a job for you. Like the company Mako wants to go to today is a recruitment company. That's a job recruitment company. It finds people jobs. So job seekers, who are the job seekers? To seek means to look for, right? Seek a job. To look for, I'm looking for a job. I'm looking for a job. Job seekers. Where are the job seekers? People who are looking for jobs. Job seekers. There's a huge pool of unemployed job seekers right now in so many countries thanks to the recession. There are many people looking for jobs and still unemployed. Sometimes they're unemployed, sometimes they're underemployed. Who is underemployed? Can you guess? Have you heard overworked and underpaid? So we have unemployed and underemployed. Have you heard, I feel overworked and underpaid. Most people are overworked and underpaid. If you feel, I feel overworked and underpaid. Too much work, too little paid. Yeah? You have to work for 2 people to get paid for half a person. Overworked and underpaid. Sometimes you overtime. A lot of people like to work overtime, which is called extra work. Extra work. If you work overtime, it means your job finishes at 5, but you work 2 more hours just to work overtime. Now I want to look at the process, the quick process of getting a job. Yeah? Let's take a quick look at the process of getting a job. So underemployed, first of all, before that, who is underemployed? If I work, usually there's a definition for a full-time job. For full-time job, for example, is any job in Canada that's above 30, I believe 37, 38 hours. Above that, that would be a full-time job per week. So hours per week. Some say it should go to 40 hours per week. Yeah? So less than that is part-time job. So full-time jobs around. Now if I am underemployed, a lot of people are underemployed, means they are not employed enough. They don't have a full-time job. So people who are underemployed and do not make enough money.
And if you have 2 jobs,
If you have 2 jobs, then you have 2 part-time jobs.
it's the same.
It depends on how many hours you work. If you work 40 hours a week, it equals like a full-time job, and then you're not underemployed. But most people have 2 or 3 jobs, and they work shifts. We have the morning shift. I work the morning shift, evening shift, and the night shift, or overnight shift. Overnight or the night shift, right? Sometimes you have the graveyard shift for the night shift, or overnight shift. They call it, because it's like working in a graveyard, the graveyard shift. Yeah? When you work, oh, I need next Tuesday, I need to go somewhere, I need to go to my doctor. So what do I need to do next Tuesday? I need to
1 day off.
take next Tuesday off, to take a day off. So, to take some days, like to take a couple of days, a day, like next Tuesday, off. So you go to your employer, sorry, and you ask for a day off. Can I take tomorrow off? Can I take a day off? I need a day off. Can I take a day off? I need to take off next Tuesday. Can I have a day off? Yeah? At universities and places like I say, he's on leave. She's on leave. She's on leave for maybe 6 months. Now this could be like, for example, on maternity leave. And you know that even for fathers, there's paternity leave. So maternity leave is when a woman is pregnant, in the final months of pregnancy, plus when the child is born, somebody needs to care for the child. That's maternity leave. Now, can you have a paid maternity leave if you have a part-time job?
No.
No. You need to have a full-time job to have paid maternity leave. If you have a full-time job, it's your right to have a paid maternity leave. Paternity leave. What is paternity leave? In some countries like England, I think Canada has the same rule as well. So the father and mother can share the 1 year leave. So she can take some 6 months off or 8 months off, and he can take 6 months to 4 months off too, because she wants to go back to work and to her career. And speaking of career, let's have the word career. So we have the word job, but we didn't have the word career. And what is the difference between job and career?
Career is your field in your life.
So career is the job of your life. Like a lifetime job. You think about career as opposed to just a job, like it could be temporary. Or for example, musicians who have a gig here and a gig there. A gig or a stint. A gig. So a gig is like a temporary. Like musicians have a gig in that town. They should go there for like one performance or two. That's a gig. A temporary job for people who just like musicians or people like, oh, I got a gig in that town. But then a career, say career.
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 Career. Career.
Yeah, career is the job of your lifetime. So now we have career women, a career woman. Who's a career woman? A career woman is a woman who, as opposed to like a housewife, you know housewife? Housewife, and also we have house husband. A woman with a career is a career woman. Especially when we have successful career women. It's a major issue. The women are having a huge issue with establishing a family and having children, choosing between children or a successful career. Because sometimes when you leave your work and your career, it's so hard to get back. Except if you have a full-time job and it's a secure, stable job. Now, it's good to talk about the career. A career diplomat. Career is also not just a noun, but also an adjective. Like a career diplomat. A career like an ambassador, for example. You know ambassador? The Japanese ambassador to Toronto, to Canada. Not to Toronto, sorry, to Canada. You know embassy? Yeah? Embassy ambassador, right? Embassy, if you want to change your passport or renew it or something, where do you go? You go to the embassy. Your country has an embassy in every country in the world. Every country you have relations with, diplomatic relations with. So you go to the embassy, and of course the man in charge of the embassy or the woman in charge of the embassy is the ambassador or ambassadress. So the ambassador is a person in charge of an embassy, right? Now, an ambassador is a career diplomat. That's his career. Now some people, you say, oh, I'm teaching for now, but it's really hard to look at teaching as a career, as a dependable career, something you can depend on, especially teaching languages in Canada. It's kind of hard to look at it as a career, as a fixed, stable job, as a career for your life. You can look at it as a temporary job maybe. It's not very well paid. But looking at it as a career, it's tough. Something that goes on for life. So they have career, and career different. So remember career. Now we want to talk about the process of getting a job. What is the process like? If I want to get a job, what should I do? Where should I start?
Job hunting.
I start job hunting, right? Job seekers, job hunting, job seeking. Good. How do I do this? How do I do my job hunting? What do I do? How do I do? So job hunting, job seeking, both mean to look for a job, right? Now, first of all, I need to know what kind of job I'm looking for, okay? So, I need to have some qualifications, right? And based on my qualifications, the things that I have, what are my qualifications? For example, I have studied, I have a master's in applied linguistics, and personally I have a master's in journalism. And this and that and this and that. And 20 years of experience doing this, 10 years of experience doing that, 1 year of experience doing this. So these are all my qualifications. You say, you should be qualified. Now he is qualified to, for example, teach English in Canada. Why? Because he has TESOL Canada. Now, TESOL Canada is a document. If you want to be qualified to teach in Canada, you need to have TESOL Canada, or TESOL certificate. It's a certificate for teaching. Now to be qualified, maybe you're not qualified. So qualifications. Now first thing I should do, and I should prepare write my resume. So I need to have a resume or CV. Resume, which is like a French word, or CV, which is British. So in Britain, they say CV, which is curriculum vitae. In America and Canada, we have resume. Resume. Do you have your resume or your CV? So if you hear CV, CV is the same as resume. But if you want to send somebody your resume or CV, you need a letter accompanying your resume with your resume. We call it cover letter. You need a cover letter. Now, I will teach you how to write a cover letter later and how to write a resume. But basically, you know, your resume is about your job experience, your professional experience, also your education, your qualifications, the highlights, whether or not you've done any volunteer work. You know volunteer? Volunteer work experience. Did you work anywhere to work as a volunteer? To work as a volunteer? Volunteer work is not paid, is it? Is it paid? It's not. You just work someplace as a volunteer. You could say volunteer.
Volunteer?
Volunteer.
Volunteer.
Yeah. If you volunteer is both noun and verb. Noun and verb. You can volunteer to volunteer as a verb. I volunteered in that school for 2 years. I volunteered at that school for 2 years. Means I worked as a volunteer. So you have volunteer work experience. You can also mention that in your resume. And also you can mention your interests. So, we will definitely talk about how to write a resume, how to write a cover letter. But basically your resume is your personal information about your education, your work experience. And at the end you have your references. You know reference? References are the people who know you. You want to provide some references maybe. But usually people write to be available upon request. Available upon request. It means if they ask you, you can provide the references once asked, if they ask you. If not, they can ask you for an interview. So the first thing you need to have ready would be a resume and a cover letter. Yes?
I have one English.
An English version.
Yes.
It's good. It's good to bring it. Well, I can. That's.
send you.
Oh, that's good. I will definitely tell you like how to write a resume and a cover letter. It's very important to know how to write a resume and a cover letter. It helps you find jobs and to land interviews. Very helpful. I'll tell you how to write resumes and cover letters, in different types of resumes and cover letters. But basically, so your resume is all about that, and also you can also write your interests and hobbies also at the end. Interests and hobbies. And of course, how to contact you. Now we'll talk about it. And the cover letter is when you want to apply for a job, you need to write to that job, hello, my name is this. I found your advertisement in this place. I'm writing to apply for this position. And I think I'm capable of doing this. I'm the person you're looking for because, then you write about your qualities a little. Please find attached my resume. And I look forward to seeing you face to face for a face-to-face interview to further explain my possible contributions to your company or the job, whatever. So we will talk about different styles of writing a cover letter as well. So you need to have these documents ready. And you need to have certain qualifications, right? And the qualifications are maybe you need to have certificates, your education, degree, education. If you have worked someplace, your work experience, maybe some references. And you need to provide some evidence that you have worked in a place, including references. So, well, what is it? How do you look for a job? Now, in the past, when there was no internet, people would just go look for jobs. But when there were newspapers, people will look for ads in the classified sections, right? Classified ads or classified section of newspapers, right? Now, there are recruitment companies and you can go to a recruitment company. If you want to look for a job yourself, where do you go? You go online to look for the job. Where do we look? We look for the jobs online. There are online online job search engines, right? Such as, for example, in Canada, we have access to the Indeed jobs, Indeed.com, Wow Jobs, Kijiji, right? Craigslist. And it goes on, right? You go to these places, these are, when you look for a job, for example, you go to the internet and you Google server jobs in Canada, restaurants jobs in Canada, teaching jobs in Canada, ESL jobs in Canada, accountant jobs in Canada. And then you can also narrow down your search to narrow down, right? You should narrow down your search. What does that mean, narrow down your search? Narrow it down. I'm looking for like a restaurant job in the city of Toronto.
More specific.
Or not in the city, in downtown Toronto, in a special place. Or in a Chinese restaurant, in a Japanese, in an Italian restaurant downtown Toronto. Now, is it full-time, part-time? What kind of job are you looking for? You can narrow it down. And then you find the job ads, right? Usually popping up through the job search engines, because most companies put their ads in. So, to put an ad or place an ad in, or advert. The British people say advert. It means advertisement, right? Remember? Advertisement. And they put their ads in, to put an ad in, to place an ad. Most companies put their ads in the major job search engines. They advertise in Craigslist, they advertise in the Wow Jobs, they advertise in the Kijiji, they advertise in any of those major, and then they provide, you can see the ad. Some of them want you to call them, some of them want you to apply in person, some of them want you to just send an email. How do you apply? To apply online? To apply online, or to apply in person? Which one is better? To apply in person or to apply online? Depends on the job. Some people believe both are good. You should do both. You should apply in person, go knock on the door, and try to get a chance to see the manager, the hiring manager. Some people say, no, it's good to do it online. We can't go in. Some say both. You should apply online and actually try to go find a manager and see somebody. And then there's luck, chance. You have to wait and see who calls you. And of course, having a good resume, having a good cover letter, really helps. Providing good references sometimes really helps. So, to apply online, you go online, you find the ad, and you apply online. How? Sending an email, that's applying online. Sometimes you apply in person, you have your resume in hand. You go to drop off your resume. To drop off your resume. You can also do it by phone, right? Sometimes. You call somebody and you say, excuse me, can I come drop off my resume? You go drop off your resume. When you drop off your resume, what do? You go to the store, you drop off your resume. Here's my resume. You also get a chance to see somebody. Human contact. It's important. And remember, you have to make a good impression. Now, speaking of the process of applying, imagine you apply online. The first thing you do is for a job, what do? I go online, I try to find out what kind of jobs are available, what kind of jobs are in demand. The jobs in demand. I look at the job market and I try to match my skills or my skill set with the jobs available, with the available jobs. And you know, some companies, speaking of available, they ask for your availability. They're asking about your schedule. Are you available on weekends? In the evenings? Weekdays? One issue is your availability, right? You may have one part-time job, you need another part-time job. So the issue is your availability. For example, you may say, I'm available on odd days or even days. On odd or even days. And of course you know that even days would be, what days are even? Thank you. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Even. Sundays and Tuesdays? Tuesdays and Thursdays are odd days. So even days are Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. Odd days are Tuesdays and Thursdays. So Tuesday, Thursday would be odd day. Numbers 1, 3, 5, 7. They are odd. What are the odd numbers? Like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Even numbers? 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah. And you may say, for example, every other weekend. Every other weekend. Every other Saturday. Every other Sunday. You should work here, for example, every other weekend. What is every other? That means this weekend you work, the next weekend you don't work. Every other weekend. I work this weekend, I don't work next weekend. Correct? So availability is important. Are you available on weekends? Are you available in the evenings? Are you available during the weekdays? Odd days, even days? They ask for your availability. So when I want to look for a job, first I say, okay, I have a degree in accounting, or I have studied business. So business is very broad, right? Now I come to Canada, and I should see what kind of jobs are in demand. I should find that out. So in my job hunting, my job search, so to search for, look for, seek, or hunt. You don't seek for. To seek a job. To hunt a job. To search for a job. To look for a job. When I'm looking for a job, when I'm searching for a job, in my job search, I should consider a few points. What are my qualifications? What have I done? My experience. Now, if I've studied business, that's very broad. What are the jobs that are in demand here? And remember, I talked about it. A demanding job is different from demanding job is different from a job in demand. Now, a demanding job is a job that's kind of hard, it's very challenging, it's full of things, it wants you to do a lot of things. Now, teaching is a highly demanding job. You should prepare lesson plans, you should go to the class, you should teach all kinds of students, different abilities, different levels of students. So you should make sure that everybody learns. You're responsible for the learning outcome of the class and the course and the learning of every student. You should write curriculum, you should correct papers and edit papers, you should write exams and tests and quizzes, and you should mark them. So you should talk to the parents, you should talk to the school officials, you should liaise between different offices. So it's basically a very demanding job, teaching, right? Now, other jobs are really demanding as well. So John, some jobs are less demanding than others. Now that's a demanding job. But a job in demand is a job that is needed, required. Now the job market in Canada, for example, they would need a dentist. They would need a physician. They don't need, for example, accountants now. Right now, when you look at the job market, there is an immense demand for some kind of job. Sometimes there's a niche market for, niche market? Now this niche market is not about, so for example, if I am a teacher who wants to teach a special language, imagine I want to teach the language Swahili. How many people want to learn Swahili? Very few people.
A small target.
So I will find a niche market, a small market, but there's a market for it. Now, for example, those people who sell expensive jewelry, they should look for a niche market of rich people. That's a small community, but the money's good. So if you sell a few jewels, you make a lot of money, perhaps more than a year's worth of salary of a teacher. Just one deal. It's a niche market. Now, we have niche demand. So, you have to find, so the first thing I do is, after I know what my qualifications are, I should look at the job market and see what types of jobs are in demand, right? Now look at the types of jobs that are in demand. And what do I do next? So the next thing I do, okay, when I find the kind of job that I should look for, then I should look for the job. Then I find lots of ads, right? Online, I find a lot of ads. So in the ads, I start reading the ads, and I try to see which advertisement either fits me, my expectations, my skills. I should match them all. Because I may have expectations too, unless I'm really desperate for a job. You know desperate? Sometimes you're really desperate for money. If I'm really desperate for money, I will accept any kind of job, right? To be desperate. To be in need. Like very much in need. To be badly in need. If you're desperate for money, or say he's desperately looking for a job. He is desperately looking. Now, if I'm desperate, I'll accept any kind of job, no matter what. Yeah? Someone say, look, you know what? I'm not that desperate now. He's desperately looking for a job. One of their teachers left. They're desperate now. They're desperately looking for a good teacher. It means they're badly looking. They're really in need of a good teacher. To be desperately looking for something. You haven't had a girlfriend for 3 months, now you're really desperate. Oh my God, it's a Saturday night, and I'm desperate. I need a girlfriend now. Anyone. You tell yourself, the first girl I see who is ready to go home with me, we're going home. I don't care. That's desperate. That's being desperate. Desperation. Javi might say, okay, even my roommate. It's being desperate. So if you're desperate for money, it means you have no money, I really need a job. I'm desperate. Sometimes say, I'm broke. Huh? I'm broke. I'm broke. I need a job, I need some money. So when you're broke, it means you have no money. I'm broke. I need to pay my bills. Yeah? Sometimes say the job pays my bills, right? You need to pay your bills. So, how many minutes I got left here? Today we got to get somewhere with this jobs and all that. Tomorrow we can do a whole lot of things, especially when you get to watch the tenses and you guys. So, what I do first when I find my qualifications and all the kind of job that's in demand here, and there's a market for it, and I go look for it and I see the ads online, I try to match the qualifications, my expectations, what are my expectations in terms of the pay and working conditions, maybe location, maybe hours, the number of hours. What are the factors that are important for me? What are my expectations? The location, the kind of job, the number of hours of work, the pay,
Going like
the distance,
no, distance no. If you wanna grow up in
growth, the distance maybe, location, and chances for growth. Chances for growth and development. You ask yourself a few questions. Am I really desperate or no? If you're less desperate, you're not that desperate, you look at your options. And of course, your expectations. This is the money I expect, like the salary or the pay, and I will not work for less than that. The location should be close to where I live, or it's okay for me, it could be anywhere. Transportation is an issue or not? Transportation. Is transportation an issue? Is transportation a problem or not? So sometimes some ads, they say must have own car. You must have your own car. Sometimes, no, you can use public transport, right? Public or private. Transportation and transport system. The working conditions. Some say great working conditions. Now let's have a break. I want to continue this.